Welcome to another episode of Cash and Sport, 10 days away from the opening ceremony in Tokyo. Exciting news, exciting times. We've seen some athletes leave for Tokyo already. Some are obviously delaying their departure, getting there a bit later to when they're performing. But it's that time now. Within the 10-day mark, athletes starts leaving, the preparation, they start filling up the village. So Cash and Sport will bring you all those news, all the medal hopefuls, all the medal winners, and also watch out in the week for a Cash and Sport detailed schedule of all the South African athletes that will be competing at the games, which is quite exciting. We'll convert it to South African time and make sure you do not miss out on any single South African athlete. Today, we've got a special guest. We've taking a look at things from a different perspective, different point of view. Someone who's watched a lot of sport in his life, a lot of Olympic sport as well. We've got Manfred Seidler. Manfred, how are you doing?
Hey, Sonani, I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. Am I putting it mildly when I say you've watched a bit of sport and followed the Olympics? How many have you actually covered?
I've covered the last three, so 08, 12, and 16.
12. Yeah.
I've covered the Commonwealth Games since 06.
Nice.
I'm one of the fortunate people who get paid to do a hobby when I get paid.
Yeah, look, when you get paid, but it's a good hobby to have, and I think the athletes are forever grateful for actually journalists who pick up a something like covering the Olympic sports, because it's such a niche thing to do. You've got your football journalists, you've got your rugby journalists in South Africa, and your cricket journalists, but when you a wide spectrum journalist like you are and pick up on Olympic sports, it's actually quite fruitful and beneficial. And as a former athlete, thank you very much. But let's dive into a bit of a background with you. Journalist, PR consultant, but how does Manfred describe himself to someone at a bar?
Cool. Okay. Well, at present, I call myself a media consultant in sport, with my biggest focus being on athletics, but obviously the Olympic sporting codes as well. I have done everything from, I got involved in sports marketing, media and PR back in 94, and was headhunted in 98 by a production company to work on then athletics, and then also an endurance sports show called the World of Endurance. So it wasn't just athletics, it was road running, it was trail running, it was open water kayaking, it was adventure racing. It was a real adventure, I'm not going to lie. It was absolutely amazing to go into the mountains and watch how people put their bodies on the line. It was good fun. But yeah, I've been in the industry basically since 94. And over the years, it just gradually evolved from PR marketing into a broadcaster, into somebody who has knowledge and expertise in all media areas pertaining to Olympic sports and predominantly in the sport of athletics.
Nice. Yeah, so completely, well versed across the spectrum, which is quite good. So speaking of PR and consulting, I think let's just dive into it, man. Something that's been topical this week, and which I forwarded to Nabs to read in the week. We're in a, call it a nice area of media and non-sporting people getting involved in sport. And what we get out of that is the situation currently with WADA, with athletes. Should athletes be banned for cannabis? Should they not? And it's kind of like, hang on, guys, you guys have just arrived to the party. What do you know? To people who don't know the sports. And I think an example of that is we saw the WADA letter. WADA replied quite firmly and quite directly to the US Senate to say, guys, this is not how things are done, and basically, this is a procedure to this. What did you think about that letter? Because I thought it was quite it was quite stern and quite direct.
It was a diplomatic punch to the throat, to be blunt. Basically what I turned around and said to the US Senate, go and do your homework. And we're obviously referring now to the Sha'Carri Richardson incident, where she tested positive for cannabis. And again, just why is cannabis on the banned list? Well, WADA, the World Anti-Doping Association, AIU, Athletes Integrity Unit, look at doping in three elements. One, is it performance enhancing? Does it go against the grain of the sport? And then obviously, is it a danger to you as the athlete? and cannabis fits 2 of those. So it falls into that. That's why it's a banned substance. And in a nutshell, that's the easiest way of explaining it. I just feel that the US senators jumped on the bandwagon and saw a great PR opportunity. And like, how dare you touch our girl? And so, because let's be honest, she is fantastic. I mean, she's got immense talent. She's super fast. She's great for the sport from a sport point of view, but also just how she carries herself, the way she dresses, statements she makes. It's Usain Bolt all over again. Now she's just got to deliver on that sort of thing. And the sport of athletics needs it, let's be honest.
For sure.
And of course, the US Senate jumps on the bandwagon and said, but cannabis is legal in various states. I'm not going, this is typical Americanism. Everything revolves around America. There are borders, but they don't exist. I was like,
the world is bigger than America. Just
exactly.
tell them that.
Exactly. So basically, in a nutshell, what WADA basically did was turn around and said, stay in your lane, and quite rightly so. And I quite like the fact that they invited the Senate, saying, look, you've got people on our body, get involved. And I quite like the fact that they said, get involved. And now the ball's in their court. But yeah, in a nutshell, I think the Olympics are poorer for the fact that Sha'Carri Richardson is not there. It would be a fantastic matchup against, in particular, the Jamaican women who are absolutely on fire.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the value add from everything around it, who she is as a personality that is now missing. So, but yeah, look, it was the right decision. There was only one decision to make, and I think WADA handled it for once, actually handled things very well.
Yeah, I think for the betterment of sport, and we think, there's rules for a reason, and we've got to stick to them. If anything, you write and you scrutinize the actual, then you start at the bottom, go through the right channels to go, hang on, let us try to understand why is cannabis on the list. But I think it's been there for years. Athletes know better. She knows better. She even said in her first interview afterwards, she knows better. And I think that was quite stern. And kudos to US Athletics, who was like, our policy is X. She does finish the ban within the month. She could, run the 4x100, but this is what our policy states, and this is why she's not selected.
Well, USA Athletics actually came under some severe flack recently because of another doping case. And I know we're digressing a bit, but it's interesting how this case, they towed the party line. But before the trials, there was the Shelby Houlihan incident, who ate a burrito, which had testosterone-infected pork in it, and she tested through the roof. I mean, if that's not a cop-out, then I don't know what is. But how USATF tried to turn around and say, no, she can run because it's under appeal. No. The Athletes Integrity Unit said, no, you can't run, end of story. And USATF had to be wrapped over the knuckles about it. So it's almost a bit of double standards, and I do understand why a lot of people, particularly in US athletics, were going like, hey, you're going that way, but
but on this one, you went that way.
Correct. But they had no choice but to ban Sha'Carri, and it was the right decision. But how they handled the Shelby Houlihan case was an absolute joke and an absolute farce. And I mean, there was a whole bunch of if you followed it on Twitter, there was a lot of it became a racist issue, and it was. In my opinion, it was. Yes, Shelby Houlihan, the poster girl of USATF. Yeah. It's cheated kid gloves. Sha'Carri Richardson, the bad girl.
To the letter of the law.
And I know I'm simplifying things and so on, but that's pretty much what it boiled down to. So in the Sha'Carri case, they got it right. In the Shelby Houlihan case, they got wrapped over the knuckles by WADA and AIU, and quite rightly so. So it's how they too have been needed to be had a whip cracked over them. So quite interesting.
With that, Manfred, I think that kind of segues nicely into something that we wanted to touch on as well, with regards to these athletes who are kind of seeing their careers being being stopped in interesting circumstances. I mean, there's been a very big question around the balance in terms of how WADA, World Athletics, are implementing the rules I mean, we've got the two Namibian athletes who were kind of removed from the list, but then there wasn't really an explanation up front as to what's happening. And then, well, I mean, it was the naturally high testosterone issue. And then before that, a couple of weeks before that, there was the New Zealand weightlifting athlete. And obviously that's a transgender issue. We don't really want to get into the sciencey stuff, but what do you think about the way that WADA in themselves and World Athletics have communicated around their reasoning, how they get to those reasons and why? It does kind of, especially looking at your example that you cited now with Sha'Carri Richardson, it kind of smacks of like there's some serious bias which is going here, and there's no real explanation as to why.
I think from the word get-go, the minute the word DSD came out, the minute Caster Semenya took this issue to World Athletics and then to the various courts that you could take it to, the entire process has been handled abysmally by everyone involved. I'm sorry, nobody's been good at PR in this instance. World Athletics basically defined that any athlete between the 400 meters and the mile in the women's racing who was identified with DSD could not run because of this advantage that they have scientifically proven. We'll leave the science aside to the Ross Tuckers and so on, but that's their stance.
Yeah.
How they presented those facts was abysmal. The entire case, I mean, Caster Semenya became the poster child for this entire debacle. We should never even have ever known about this. I'm sorry, that's a decline privilege.
Yeah.
And it was basically what happened in 2009 when she did so well at the World Championships as a teenager. Then IAAF, now World Athletics, somebody in that institution leaked this information to the Australian press. The Australian press jumped on the bandwagon. South Africans are going like, oh, the Aussies, and nothing to do with that. But this so basically I say from the word get-go, this entire process was handled diabolically. The conversations that have been in the public domain, we should never even have known.
Never know.
Yeah.
Or a whole host of athletes prior to Caster Semenya who have been by then IAAF, now World Athletics, told your testosterone levels are too high, and we can debate until the cows come home, the ethics around that, the science behind that, and that's beyond my knowledge. I'm not a sports scientist. I'm not a scientist by no means. Like I say, well, that, as you said, Sanani, to Ross Tuckers, but the process has been a debacle, and I can completely understand why the continent of Africa turns around and says, World Athletics, you are racist. And that's been thrown at Sebastian Coe and his cronies. Because if you look at the makeup of it, it's very British. It is very, very British. The CEO is John Ridgen, who used to be the CEO of, I think it was Fast Track, an athletics event organizing company in the UK. And just go and look at a lot of the people involved, from SEBCO down to different committees and so on. They're very British and very European. So the image, the look, the PR is not good. It's really not been happening well at all. The two Namibian girls in question, to be honest, I saw it coming, and I'm waiting for another athlete, an American athlete, to suffer the same. Ating Wu, the 800-meter girl, who demolished the Americans at the trials. I mean, she just destroyed them. And that was deja vu from 2009 World Athletics champs, Caster Semenya. It was deja vu. I'm just waiting for it to come. I'm not insinuating anything, but I'm waiting. Because that just seems to fit the narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The interesting thing about the ban is that it's from 400 meters to the mile. And these girls are now running the 200 meters. And one of them ran at 22.3, I think it was the other day. I'm going, uh-oh, she's like knocking on finals territory. Top 5 territory. And now... And
that's not even a strength. Yeah.
Correct. And now remember, World Athletics have turned around and said, we're not limited to that 400 mile. If we find that going forward in our research, this advantage, and I say advantage in inverted commas, and again, not my domain, if we find that in other events this advantage exists, we're going to have to relook at the rules. And they said that quite categorically when they made that ruling, which affected Caster, Wambui, Leon Saba, and so on.
It's problematic, Manfred, in that they seem to find this evidence when it's convenient for them to find the evidence when someone starts winning. How is it that the entire time, oh no, it's been okay, you can run, but until you start winning and until you start shocking the world, then there's a problem. Before that, it's fine, you can run, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and you're 100% correct, but I think the thing is that they keep falling back on is the science, and the science says we didn't have enough data because this was never investigated properly until Caster Semenya, Wambui, and Leon Saba literally destroyed women's 800 meters.
Yeah.
Untouchable. And whatever you believe is right or wrong, that's the fact. They were untouchable.
Yeah.
And they have been affected by this. Leon Saba has gone on to qualify for both the 5,000 and the 10,000 at the Olympics. She's not in medal contention. So, but already there's going to be, I think there'll already be that, okay, let's watch it. So this barrier, this border of 400 meters to the mile, it's going to grow. I mean, the World Athletics did turn around and say we don't have enough data to go beyond this, but obviously
they'll be working on it.
Correct. Look, back to your original question, the PR around it has been shocking. The way it's been handled has been shocking. The way it's medicinally handled is shocking.
And the poor athletes, man.
I don't know the answer. I don't know what is the right thing to do. I'll be very honest with you. You turn around and you spoke about the transgender issue. Now you start asking yourself, how many so-called categories do we have?
Yeah.
And now you're moving into the realms of the Paralympics, where in the 100-meter final, you're going to have 4 different categories. And you know, is that good for the sport? Is it bad for the sport? Should we have different categories? And I mean, this conversation could go on for decades.
it could go on for a while. We could really dive into it, and we don't want to do that. But it is just, for me, it's as I said earlier, there's also a human rights issue to it in terms of the athletes, us knowing too much about the athletes in terms of their medical records. And I think that was whole Namibian athletics' stance or Namibian IOS and NOXA to say, guys, you let us down, World Athletics, in that regard, to let out all the information onto the table. This is not what we agreed on. And I think, to your point, Manfred, the PR from the beginning has been bad. The understanding, the communication, what goes out to the media, what goes out and what doesn't. So interesting times ahead. I think we're going to have a lot more of these cases, a lot more questions around world athletics, or a lot more, as you say, as that category expands, as the data becomes more available, a lot more debates to go into. But I think let's flick to Tokyo and look forward to that. I have been personally very vocal, and I'll tell you, vocal in my own circles and WhatsApp groups, and not understanding how athletes are not already there. And simply because I'll look at some of the South African athletes, as I said, there's some having holding camps here. The box 7s left yesterday, so they'll be there. The young under 23 men's team, football team, they leave today. Hockey leaves on Thursday. I'm a bit worried about 2 things. So why I would want to leave early is if you test positive on arrival, it gives you 10 days to quarantine then or play around with. So I'd rather leave early to give myself the 10 days to quarantine that side. And also current temperatures are between 30 and 32 with 76% humidity. So what are you still doing in South Africa? Leave, go acclimatize. I am so, performance and medals are won on small margins. And I just don't get why whole of Team South Africa has left. But I mean, that's another, there's money involved, there's where they're going to stay. There's some athletes are only starting later, but I believe any athletes that are starting on the 24th should have been out by now. I don't know, am I the only one who believes that?
In an ideal world, I would agree with you. But I think we're not in an ideal world, and I think the rules have been rewritten. In fact, we don't know what the rules are. And I think that's been the biggest obstacle of any, never mind federation, sporting event, anything that's got to do with mass participation with lots of people. I mean, we look at Euro now, full stadiums with masks and everything, but there was a vaccine rollout that was aggressively run. Tokyo has not done the vaccine rollout aggressively.
Well,
in fact, they've been, and I know for us in South Africa, the numbers that they're experiencing are minuscule compared to the 22,000 that we get in a day. They get 40 or 140 in a day. But for the Japanese government and the Tokyo residents, that's a big issue. So they're going, sorry, we want to minimize the risk. You come in at the last minute. If you test positive, sorry, you're gone. Tough. But yeah, look, in an ideal world, I'd agree with you. You'd want them there earlier because, as you say, it's cold here. It is hot and humid in Tokyo, and it's going to get worse. So acclimatization is a serious thing. So I just think that the rule book has been thrown out the window and people are making it up as they go along. I don't think anybody knows the right answer.
But it's sad. I mean, the fans aren't going to be there because of this whole state of emergency situation. And the athletes are going to run to empty stadiums, which it's going to be strange. I've never seen it. Obviously, it's never happened, but it's going to be strange. And athletes are going to have to get themselves, up. I mean, we've seen it in football where teams have fallen off because they just don't have the 12th man to try and get them up there.
No, it's a very valid point, and it's going to be very interesting. I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. One is like, it's just going to be a horrible Olympics because there's no one there. The other is, and I was saying this to Lindsay Parry the other day. He's going as the triathlon coach. I'm like going, but you going to an Olympic Games in a pandemic, you are making history. This is probably not going to happen in our lifetimes again. So there's the mindset that needs to be looked at from that point of view, I think. And so you'll be able to tell us a lot easier or in more detail, being a pro athlete who has competed at that level. I mean, you do say, the stadium and the fans and so on, and it does make a big difference. But when you get there and you are in a history-making event, surely from a psychological point of view, that's got to make you more hungry, make the most of it. You've been giving this opportunity. There's a lot of athletes that are going to Tokyo. This is their one and only shot, not just South Africa, but in general. Take the opportunity. It's not a packed stadium, but you're an Olympian.
Control the controllables. And as you say, and understanding that you went to a 2020 Olympic Games in 2021 and were one of those 13,000 athletes to be able to do it for your country, for yourself as well. It's quite special. So give the performance that you would give, in front of a packed 20,000 stadium.
Sorry, I also think that the way we know the Olympics is going to change forever after this. It's becoming a cost exercise too. I mean, you talk about your handle, cash and sport. This is a very big issue. No longer will teams be able to stay there from the opening all the way to the closing. You come in, you do, and you go home. It'll be interesting to see how that affects the entire Olympic.
We chatted about it last week. I mean, no one's got 15 billion US dollars to fund into Olympics, and this is what this one is going to cost at the end, if not more. But so Paris and LA might stomach that, or roughly about between 12 and 15. But after that, I don't know who's got that money and which city won't be left short or left disadvantaged by hosting the Olympics.
But I think let's dive into the actual athletes themselves, the stuff on the field. We've talked about the politics and the stuff off the field. Let's track and field, right? So athletics right now is in a very, very good space. There's a lot of records, track and field records being broken everywhere. Let's look at South Africa itself. Manfred, who are you looking at as our medal hopefuls? Maybe let's say just generally, and maybe your speciality is more athletics, right? So track and field itself.
Well, okay, just in a nutshell, I think the Rose squad, Cox fought on the men's team.
that term is a tongue twister of note. I've butchered it completely so many times. So the Coxless,
they do.
I think
I do believe that they're in with a shot. I trust Roger Barrow. I mean, he said before 2012, watch these guys, and he was talking about the lightweight form. Look what they did. They came from behind, smashed the gold medal. The rugby sevens have to be a medal contender.
Yeah.
Geordie Smith is out surfing, so that's a big blow for us. Tatiana Schumacher, she's a definite medal contender. I mean, she's leading the rankings. She's leading the rankings list. But then you start looking. Wade van Niekerk is not a certainty. 4 years ago, you knew he was winning gold. It was just a matter of the time. I wouldn't say he's a favorite to win gold. I say he's in with a shot of a medal. He's got to be a medal contender. You're not a world record holder and an Olympic champion and a two-time world champion without being that, even of coming back from injury. Akani's in the shape of his life. He recently he finished second the other night in Monaco.
Yeah.
I reckon he's got to be a medal contender. I think our 4x100 meter relay squad was a medal contender. I think we've now got challenges with Clarence Munoz not performing. Thankfully, Sean Patuchetso-Maswangani is on fire.
He's on fire, yeah.
It's another story. Totliso Leotlela he's had a fantastic season. Even though he has gone sub 10 up here, hasn't done it in Europe, doesn't matter. He's been consistent 10-1, 10-1, 10-1. And we could throw Wade into the mix, and I think we should. I think we should use him in the 4x1 because we've seen in the 200 meters how well he runs the bend, and that he is in good shape. And I think those four are huge contenders for a medal and possibly even a gold medal. But then we start scraping the barrel and we start looking around. There is no Caster, which was a banked medal. We've got a number of newcomers. Just the fact that they're at the Olympics is a great achievement for them. And then we look at men's marathon. Stephen Mokoka, he was fifth in Doha at the World Champs 2 years ago. The same applies to Gerda Steyn and Yvette van Zyl. I mean, Gerda's in the shape of her life. And we know she's a fighter. But when you throw in a couple of women who run 2:22, which is 3 minutes faster than what she runs, and if they churn out that pace, will she be able to go with it? So a lot of question marks. I think South Africans mustn't turn around and say we expect the same medal haul that we had in London or in Rio. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't think it's going to happen at all. Because, I mean, someone like Richard Murray has just come off a heart op. It was a bit of a heart op he had, but he's going, though. He's fine. He's recovering. Henry Schoeman, I'm not sure where he is in terms of triathlon. He had double COVID at one stage. He got COVID twice. Who else? And we're looking at it's after that, as you say. It's not looking too pretty.
Yeah, it gets very difficult from there.
I mean, she just won a stage on the which tour is it?
The ladies Giro d'Italia, the ladies,
And she's always been a good contender. She's always been solid, but she's got no one to ride with her. And unfortunately, cycling is a team sport.
Yeah. But let's tackle the real cream of the crop there, right? Let's say 100 meters men. Who's your money on?
Ooh, I'm going to say it's wide open. I'm going to say Trayvon Bromell is not going to win gold. He ran 9.77.
Okay.
He ran 9.77 in the States.
Yeah.
And he finished an abysmal fifth in Monaco.
Yes, I saw that.
I saw that. Yeah.
Monaco. But I mean, Ronnie Baker won that race against Akani. He's coming in good form. Fred Curley, the 400 meter runner, went down to 100 and 200. He's in the mix. He's dangerous.
He's got a top 5 time this year, actually. Yeah. That's interesting.
And then don't write off Andre de Grasse, the Canadian. So he's. I think the men's race is wide open, which is why I say Akani's in with a very good shot of coming back with a medal. I wouldn't say he's guaranteed medal, but I think it's probably his best chance ever.
All right, so we've gone through the men's 100. Akani's got a good chance. There's a couple of guys from the US. Fred Curley's come down to the 100. So let's look at the women's 100. Shelly-Anne, Sha'Carri is not going to be there. Yeah, which of the Jamaicans do you think is going to take it? Because it just looks like it's Jamaica right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be party time in Jamaica, and this time it's going to be all the women. I mean, it's been men and women in the past. I think now it's just going to be, obviously, just going to be the women.
Yeah.
Shelly-Anne Fraser-Pryce has to be the favorite for me.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that she is already operating on Tokyo time. So even though she's currently racing in Europe, she's operating on Tokyo time. Her day is structured as if it's 6 a.m. in Tokyo. That's when she gets up in Europe.
Oh, wow.
Which is like 2 a.m. in the morning, something like in Europe. I mean, it's the 7-hour time zone difference. So
it is so hard to do. We tried to do that before Beijing, and it's not easy.
But why is nobody else doing it? I mean, come on. I mean, you would think that you would do that, you know, just to get yourself ready. If you know you're only going to get there like a couple of days before. I mean, try and get yourself ready, you know. But anyway,
you think the stuff is easy, as I'm saying.
That you Olympians make it. And then you Olympians make yourselves. Okay, but no, I hear you. It's not so easy. But anyway, okay, cool. So we've done the men's 100, women's 100. Right, 400 women's hurdles.
That's a mouth-watering prospect. So
yeah, that is exciting.
I don't know if either one of you watched the USA trials.
Qualifiers.
Yeah, that race. I mean, I still went back onto YouTube to go and relook at it. Yeah. It was amazing how Sydney McLaughlin did it.
Yeah.
She blew that away, and she has to be the favorite. Don't write off Delilah Muhammad. I mean, she lost the world record to Sydney McLaughlin. She wasn't far behind her. And remember, she also had COVID, and she's also come back from an injury.
Yeah.
She might just be racing herself into shape, getting into shape, and at the right time, just be in the right shape. She was a lot more tired than McLaughlin was after the 400 hurdles. But, you know, she's a defending champion. So she's done it.
Yeah.
You can't.
And
that's going to be such a mouth-watering prospect. And then there's the Dutch girl, what's Femke Bol?
Femke Bol, yeah.
Mid-52s and 52 low. Any one of those two make a mistake, she'll be there to pick up the pieces. It's going to be really, really exciting. It's one of those races I can't wait for. I'm looking forward to that. The women's 15, 5, and 10 is going to be riveting because Sifan Hassan has entered all three.
Yeah.
And potentially she could come away with 0 medals if she runs all three. And you would not think that, I mean, given the fact that her world record was just recently broken, the 10,000. But I mean, she got carrots in the 1500 from as you mentioned, you've got to have faith Kipyegon. And she destroyed her. I mean, that kick was like, whoa, where did this come from?
Where did this come from? That's exactly, I was watching and I was like, whoo.
Yeah, it was quick.
So I think the women's 1500 and the 5000 and the 10,000 can be really interesting. I think I'm putting my money on Faith Kipyegon to win that 1500.
Yeah.
If Sifan Hassan does all three, she's got a schedule that is insane, and I think it'll cost her. If she selects, she will either the 15 and the 5 or the 15 and the 10 or the 5 and the 10. I reckon she'll come back with 2 medals, not necessarily gold. Helen Obiri and Letesenebet Gide in the 10,000, for my money, are the two to look out for, unless Sifan Hassan just focuses on the one. And then in the 5,000 again, you've got Obiri, and then you've got Gudaf Tsiga as well. And she's also in the 1500, as is Laura Muir. Women's middle distance running is exciting. It's really, really exciting. So, these Olympics are going to be great.
Manfred, I think we've kind of covered it all today, and you know, there's just so much to look forward to in Rio or in Tokyo. The heat, the incessant heat, which already is doing crazy numbers in a pandemic Olympics. We really look forward to it. Thanks so much for joining us today and getting us really stuck into the meat of athletics and Olympics in general. I mean, you're an all-rounder, you've covered it all. You know, look out for Manfred on Twitter. He's out there doing his thing on Twitter, always posting up, highlights of everything. I mean, geez. And yeah, follow us on Twitter as well. Catch us on the website. We'll see you again next week. Cheers. Thank you so much for joining us.